Hey everybody, it's Hyper, and today we're coming back to talk about the Wild Hunters again, and this is in regards to the two most recent tweets dropped by Tomislav. This one is one he dropped on May 6, 2022, and it says, "The Wild Hunter, Alpha Male, a concept slash subject to change." Well, I was right, at least I think that the guy standing in the village in my previous video was the Alpha Male or the Chief of some kind. Maybe it's not going to be what it is in the full game, but I'm just glad to see that we are getting a good idea of how it's progressing from these. Like, the fact that this is the chief or like something like that, the alpha male, means that they are being pretty consistent with what they show us on Twitter and what the actual end product might be. This tweet is a perfect example of how Tomislav is sticking to his vision, and I appreciate it. It says, "Some will say that they don't belong to Scum, but they are here since 0.1 version, lurking in the caves below the island. You just haven't met them yet. Tech 1 did some nasty experiments on people to get Phoenix tiers running." And I think that's very telling. And I'm glad he mentioned that, right? The reason being is people are saying, "Oh, we don't need wild hunters," and people are talking about how it's going to ruin the game and this and that. Like every update, they're saying like this isn't Scum, it doesn't match like the universe, which is not true, because if you followed Scum from the beginning, you know that things like this were planned from the start, right? So just bear with them. I'm sure the final vision, once it's realized in the final product of the game, it's going to be fantastic, right? So let's break down these pictures and see what exactly they have to offer us, because in this next picture you can see that Tomislav has this little guy right here. Again, not little, he looks quite large actually, and he says, "Morning, Wild Hunter Warrior." So this doesn't look like it is the alpha or the chief, but this is definitely a warrior, right? So it's another variant of the wild hunter. So this way we know that there's more than one type for sure. So I'm going to break down both of these. And if you guys are interested in this video, you like what you see from the wild hunters and you're curious, go ahead and check out my other video. It's the lore behind the wild hunters. And it's a much longer video with a lot more evidence and deep diving into the information we have about them so far and how they came to be on Scum Island. So if you like to check that out and these guys interest you, go ahead and hop over to my YouTube page to see what I have to say about them as well. Right? So let's check out this first picture really quick from May 6th. One of the main things I want to show you guys on this right off the bat that kind of stood out to me is look how massive this guy is. You can tell he's a big guy. He's very he's very cut, right? He's chiseled. Like, this guy's been working out a lot, but that's not what I want you to notice. I want you to look at how big he is in reference to these skulls around his belt. I mean, take a look at that. He has, like, what it looks like 5 human skulls, unless they're monkey skulls or something like that. It's hard to say. Tied around his belt, and look at how small these are in relation to his hand right here holding the shield, right? And then in relation to his head, if you compare the size of those skulls to his head, they're absolutely dwarfed by him. So I don't know if this is like a true scale of him or if this is just a concept, right? But if this is the true scale of him, this guy's massive. He's literally a giant. I don't think that is the case, because we have a fox up here on his left shoulder. We've also got this tire he's holding up in his right hand. So he's probably not as huge as we think he is. But I mean, come on, like it still kind of gives you the sense that this guy's going to be somebody you don't really want to mess around with, right? Now, we know the wild hunters technically are human beings that are mutated, right? So they are humans, they just have a lot of mutations going on. And I think one of the first things we have to show that is if we take a look at his left hand, it looks like he only has 3 or maybe 4 digits on this hand over here. Again, quite large, huge, beefy hands. And, that's just showing you he's not completely human anymore, I guess. There's not really a way to know how to describe it. He's just a very modified or mutated. Like, he's a mutant, right? So that's all you have to know, I guess, right? But if we look at his right hand that's holding the shield made out of a tire, you can see he has 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers right there. So I don't think he has the full 5 digits. Doesn't really look like it. But going on to his feet from here, we can see that you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very sharp, mean-looking claws. And they're definitely not nails. They are claws. They're animalistic and sharp and pointy and feral-looking, right? And another thing you notice right off the bat too is he's got this shackle on his left foot, or his left ankle, I should say, right? And I don't think this is something that the wild hunters could have made themselves. This is definitely a remnant of from when this guy was under the care, or I guess the, I guess the knife of Tech One, right? Now, if we zoom out, we can just get an idea of how intelligent these guys really are, right? So you can see that he definitely knows how to use tools. That's for sure. He wears clothing, and they have these markings all over their body. Look at this. He even has like a little sun symbol on his forehead, and that tells me that it has some significance to them. They are spiritual. They have art. You know, they have meaning behind everything they do, right? And the next thing besides that, you know, those markings and the decorations he has on his body, you can see that he has tools, right? He's got this crazy looking axe in his left hand. It's got this massive blade, and on the back it's got this like sledgehammer with spikes on it. Like, this thing's mean and huge, and I don't want to be on the receiving end of that. It's already covered in fresh blood is what it looks like. It's even got some chips in this, so he's been busy, right? And on the other side, we can see that there is this massive truck tire, this off-road tire of some kind. Actually, that looks exactly like the tires I have on my Jeep, which is funny. But he's got that. And if you've ever held a car tire, especially one of these big off-road tires, you know they're pretty damn heavy. Holding one and walking around with it with one arm like that is no like small feat. It takes somebody of impressive strength to do that. And you've got to, you know, be a good size too, otherwise it's going to throw you around if you try and manipulate it. That inertia is wild, right? So this guy definitely, you know, he's got to be bigger than average. Right, and then he's got chains all over it, right? And to fasten it to the wheel like this, and I don't know if anybody knows about cars and stuff. I'm sure people do based off my demographics, but this had to probably have been welded or bolted in there somehow, right? So these guys have an understanding of how tools in our world works, which makes me think that the wild hunters aren't really all that primitive. They may be feral, but I think they're, I mean, my theory is they're still just as intelligent as they were before they became the wild hunters, before they became mutated, and before all the experiments, excuse me, Tech One put them through. This makes me think that they kind of choose this feral lifestyle, or maybe they're just making the best of the resources they have available to them on the island without having to come to the surface and be harassed by, you know, Scum Island prisoners and Tech One employees and sentries and stuff like that. Either way, the next thing I want you guys to see is look at these little jars, or to me, when I look really closely, you can kind of see these little stitching lines on them. I don't know if you guys can see, maybe if I zoom in quite a bit, but these little stitching lines tell me that these are made of leather or something. But the fact that they have a cork in top makes me wonder, like, they can hold liquids. They could do all kinds of stuff right there. Maybe he's collecting blood and stuff. It's hanging there with the skulls. I don't know, but just the look of this guy creeps me out. This would be terrifying to see, right? Then the next thing, other than the tools he clearly has and knows how to use, there's armor and clothing, right? He's got this piece of armor on his leg. It's kind of hard to tell what it was made of. I think it's like a hubcap or something on his knee, and then he's got some bones and some leather wrapped around his right leg. He's got this like loincloth with a leather belt, which all the stuff is hanging off of. Then we move higher and higher. We can go to his left arm again, back where we started, and you can see what looked like to be these knives that are attached to his handguard or his fingerless gloves right here. Maybe they're throwing knives of some sort. I'm not sure. They kind of look like the ones that are on his chest too. But if we move up to his upper arm where his bicep is, you can see that he has armor made up of bones, right? And it's kind of hard to tell. There might be some metal under there too. I don't know. But this guy knows he needs to protect himself, and he's doing a damn good job of it. And just look how small those bones are compared to him. If those are human bones and not animal bones, again, that's just another hint to how massive this guy really is. Now let's move on up to his chest. Like I said, maybe this is another form of armor. Maybe it's just meant to look scary, or maybe it's a bandolier and he's using it to hold these throwing knives that are carved from bones. To me, that's probably the most likely choice, just because look how sharp they look. They look like they're very sharp and used as a weapon or a tool of some kind. And if we move even higher, you can see that he's wearing a skull of some kind. I'm not familiar too much with the anatomy of animals, but from what I have seen, that kind of looks like it would be maybe a boar skull. I'm not positive. Maybe it's a bear skull. Again, like I said, I'm not an expert. It looks like a large animal of some kind. A meat-eating animal at that, just as you can tell from those sharp teeth, right? So maybe it's a boar, maybe it's a bear. I don't know. Either way, that's insane. If it is a bear skull, look how big this dude is. That's just another reason to be terrified of him. And then again, for another like sense of scale, I guess he's got like maybe this fresh kill. I'm not sure. This is a fox, but that's one giant ass fox. If that's the case, as I talked about before, maybe they're going to have mutated dogs. I'm not sure. Probably not. It's probably just like something overlooked in the concept, right? The next thing I want you guys to see is look at his back. He's got this like giant nail board we talk about, right? And it's got the same symbol, maybe the same or a modified symbol of like what's on his forehead, but then it's got all these teeth sticking out of it, and it's just a big ass nail board, which I assume is another weapon, something like that, not positive. And look how massive this thing is though. It goes all the way down past like almost to his knees. So this is another massive weapon he has at his disposal. So I imagine when we do start running into these guys on Scum Island, we are going to have one hell of a time taking care of these guys. Maybe even if we can take care of them, you know, that's the thing is they haven't really said if they're going to be 100% hostile or not. They haven't said if we can really talk to them or if we can you know, trade with them or interact with them in any other way besides fighting them. We know they will be hostile for sure, just from the other tweets and stuff we've seen so far. But I mean, I don't know, guys. This is exciting to me. This is really exciting stuff for me. I think it's just super cool. Like whoever designed this guy really had a vision in mind of exactly what they wanted to see, right? Kind of reminds me of some Conan stuff. Definitely has some Kratos vibes going on right there. Definitely out of God of War, some kind like that. It's just really cool. He's got his shield, he's got his axe, he's got his other weapons, he's got his armor, and you can tell he's prepared. Definitely has this look in his eyes like he's staring right at something too. He's got those sharp, you know, animal teeth, and you know, I think they were heavily inspired by things like you know, maybe like a massive like gorilla or something, or honestly the Uruk from you know, Lord of the Rings. Really, he does look a lot like one of them, so I think that probably was another heavy inspiration from all this. The last thing on this picture I want people to really look at, look up here in his head. You can kind of see there's some hair up there, and it maybe looks like it's falling out or something. I don't know if he's aged, I don't know if he's sick, or I don't know if your hair just falls out when you become a wild hunter. Probably does from the other pictures we've seen, but I don't know. It's just here showing like they are very human, but not as human as you would think in other ways based off the other pictures we've seen so far. And let's go to the next picture right here before I keep rambling onward, right? So the next picture we have is going to be, well, here, let's see. So the next picture we have is going to be this one right here. This picture is another good one, right? And I think this one might have a better sense of scale. The reason being is I want you to notice a few things. Look at the skulls again. So this looks more like an adult human skull in relation to his size. Then again, he's still very large because the size of that human skull versus his hand, he could definitely just, you know, pick that up like it's nothing. And you have these other smaller skulls around his waist too, which is kind of weird. I wonder what these small skulls are. And the idea of my theories that are going through my mind makes me very uncomfortable as to what those could be, you know? Considering how savage he looks, you know, they may be his own young. I'm not positive. I don't know. Anyways, let's look at some of the brutal details, right? He's got some skulls and a sack, and it's bloody. Maybe there's more than just skulls in there. Who can say? But look at his right leg. Look at this. He's got rebar going through one side, like outer side of his calf, coming out the inner side of his calf. Two big old pieces of rebar with, I think they're pieces of metal. Yeah, he has like armor pushed through his body. Again, a lot like the Uruk from Lord of the Rings. That's what it reminds me of, right? Again, we have more skulls wrapped around his ankle. We see those spiky feet again. I think it was actually the same legs that were reused to make this because it all looks very similar, right? Then we go to the left knee. You can see that there's some more armor, some bones, and what appears to be an animal hide wrapped around that right here. So, Let's move up from that. I don't know if this is the alpha, or if the other one, maybe there's more than one tribe. I think that's probably the best bet at this point, or maybe there's just different stages of development or different concepts. But let's look over here too. We were talking about the symbols on the other one. This one doesn't really have any distinct symbols, but he definitely has the same body paint or blood paint, right? You can see that all over his body. But let's take a look at his left forearm. What do you see right there? To me, that says daddy, except it was spelled in a very primitive way, like a small child were writing it and trying to spell it out themselves. That's kind of weird looking, but it's not like a tattoo or a drawing. You can see it's like carved into his forearm. At least that's what it looks like to me from this angle. I don't know like what these guys are about, or how like savage their society really is. Maybe one of their kids carved that into their arm. I don't know, man. Maybe he got pissed off and that's why he has those tiny skulls on his belt. Who can say? Either way, it's very uncomfortable. Now we have a better look at his bandolier as well. You can see that those indeed are some kind of knife or tool of some kind. Maybe they're hooks. I don't know exactly what he'd be using them for, but definitely look like they're deliberate, not just like a piece of armor. We got some teeth hanging off him, and then we also see like he has some sort of holster on the right side of this loincloth thing where he's holding bones up. But it kind of looks like a brace, because to me, right here, it looks like he has an injury, and these bones are tied to it in a way that they're kind of splinting it and holding him together. It kind of looks like that on this side, too, with these bones around his waist. I don't know. It's hard to say if that's the truth, but maybe it is. Now, if we go to his right hand in this picture, you can see he's got 3 gnarly spikes. It's kind of hard to see if those are coming out between his fingers, but the way it's drawn right here makes it look like it's coming out of his fingers, out of his knuckles, like he's Wolverine or something. Like, that's kind of crazy too. Maybe they can mutate more. I don't know. That's wild though. We get another look at one of their weapons, right? You've got this crazy looking knife, you know. It's carved out of what appears to be like an animal's jaw of some kind. Maybe it's like a, I don't know. It looks like it's carved out of a jaw, and he's turned it into like a bone knife, which is wild. We have a saw blade right here attached to his forearm by I don't know, a lot of this stuff looks like wood to me. It looks like leather, it looks like cloth, just an amalgamation of all of it, right? And then we go to the top of his forearm again, the same exact bone armor we saw before around his bicep and his upper arm, right? Now, let's take a closer look at the sack over here. It's a fairly large sack of whatever the hell that is, and that skull actually appears to have its eyes still inside of it, so that's pretty, it's pretty damn brutal. I didn't notice that before. Let's take a better look, too, over here. He definitely is hunting, so that's a massive rabbit. But look at that. He's got a Scum. Oh my gosh, he's got a Scum air freshener. And I imagine maybe he's like, man, I smell like shit. Or maybe he's like, this bag smells like shit. I don't know. Maybe this rabbit smells bad. But he definitely has, you know, a liking for this air freshener right there to keep it on his person like that. I think that's kind of funny, right? If we look at the top right of his body, you see he's got these like pauldrons on with metal and animal fur again to match what's going on his left knee down there. And he has what appears to be another axe fixed to his back. And it's kind of hard to say. That might be like an old piece of metal, or it could be a rock. Again, I don't know what it's made of exactly, but definitely it's another tool they made. Now this I kind of like, is because this is showing like he has a helmet similar to the alpha male. Definitely looks like he would offer some protection, especially to the side of his face, using some animal jawbones again. But what I want you guys to look at, other than his cool helmet, because he's a warrior, is look at his face. His facial structure is definitely skinnier. His nose is different. You know, his mouth and face is a lot more slender than that alpha male. So maybe he has a different diet. Maybe it's just a different variant. His genes aren't strong. I don't know how it works, but he definitely has much different facial structures from the alpha male we saw in the previous picture, and he's not as muscular either. That's just a cool detail I wanted to see. So let's go to the next. Maybe this is a watch. I don't know. Again, like they were human beings that have been mutated, so if they are as intelligent as we think they are, he probably still would be able to use this watch, right? I used to have a solar digital watch when I was a little kid. It never needed to be charged or have its batteries taken out. Maybe he's got one of those, who knows? Or maybe it's a shackle like we saw in the other picture that just remained on his body since he escaped Tech 1, or maybe it's just a wristband they made. It's kind of hard to say, but I think me speculating things like this gives me some good ideas, and it's kind of hyping me up for when I actually see these guys in game. All right. Anyways, like, tell me what you guys think. Like, this is crazy stuff we're getting from them. And a lot of people are upset about the Wild Hunters. They're kind of saying, like, oh, that doesn't belong in Scum. It doesn't fit with the setting, which I completely disagree with, right? I think having hostile NPCs on Scum Island is exactly what it needs. And if you guys forget to remember, like, since the beginning, this stuff was planned. There always was a plan to have a more fleshed out, Scum universe. You may be, experiencing that on Scum Island, but there's a lot going on in the world that they have, addressed, right? You're in the future in these huge mega cities. It's like cyberpunk dystopian future, right? And Scum Island is one of these places that hasn't been touched by all of that, development in these big mega cities and stuff. We know it's post some kind of war or something, but it's not just a game show about prisoners thrown on the island. It's much more fleshed out than that, and it goes a lot deeper than that. So I think them addressing stuff like the Wild Hunters to kind of see what Tech 01 is all about, it definitely helps, and I think it's going to add a lot to the game. I've talked about it in my previous video, but having the Wild Hunters be underground in the island allows you to kind of see, like, that this is a bigger universe than just I piss somebody off. Or at this point in the game, everyone's an arsonist, right? Committed arson. I'm thrown on this island. We got to kill each other, whatever, right? That's kind of boring. It gets old. It's been done before, like death race, things like that. It's not the first time we've seen things like this, right? So I think having a storyline that is below the surface of just oh, this is a game show on this island, this and that, right? I think that's going to add a lot to my connection to the game and my immersion in the game, right? And I think it'll do the same for a lot of other people too, especially since right now Scum is doing survival fantastic, it's doing metabolism fantastic, and it's just so much fun to play, right? It needs more direction. It needs more of an end game, right? So the more we'll be able to trade and do missions and stuff, which I imagine a lot of these are going to have to do with the Wild Hunters, the more I think value there is to playing Scum, right? So I love the idea of the Wild Hunters. I think this guy looks badass. Definitely looks terrifying. I don't know what I'll do if I see one the first time in game, but I can tell you I'm gonna be preparing when I hear they're coming, right? That's the two main photos we've gotten from Tomislav so far. Tell me what you guys think of the stuff. Tell me what other lore videos you'd like to see in the future, and if you guys think the Wild Hunters are a good thing for Scum, if they're a good direction for game players to be taking the game in, right? And definitely check out my other content. I make a lot of Scum content. I'm not just a Scum channel, but I do a lot of it. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's going to be a staple of the channel for the foreseeable future. And I guess, kind of wrap things up. I do this, for free on my own time. It's a hobby of mine. I do enjoy doing it, but it does take a lot of time and money on my part. So if you guys would like to support me, I'd greatly appreciate it. No pressure whatsoever. If anything, you guys could just tell me how I'm doing or offer me criticism to help me do better in the future in the comments. I would appreciate that as well. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos I have coming. It's me, Hyper, and I can't wait till next time. And until then, peace.